homestead characteristic of the Nguni-speaking peoples of southern Africa. Although from the period of colonization, European South Africans and historians commonly referred to the entire settlement as a kraal, ethnographers who have long recognized that its proper referent is the animal pen area within a homestead citation needed. Modern ethnographers call the several human dwellings within a homestead Xhosa, Umsi, Zulu, Umuzi, Sotho, Mutsi, Swazi, Umudi, houses, singular Ndlu, plural Xhosa and Zulu Isndlu, Sotho Dintlu, Swati Tindlu. Folds for animals and enclosures made specially for defensive purposes are also called kraals, Zulu kraals. For the Zulu people, the kraal or izabea, in the Zulu language, acts as a homestead, a site for ritual worship, and as a defensive position. It's laid out as a circular arrangement of beehive-shaped huts called ikwekwene, which were traditionally constructed by women, surrounding a cattle enclosure. They are always built on one of Zululand's many hills, orientated downwards. The term kraal refers both to the village itself and the central cattle enclosure. Layout. Kraals are built on a hill sloping downwards, with the entrance facing the bottom of the hill for sanitary, defensive, and ritual purposes. There's an outside wooden fence that encompasses the entire kraal, and then an interior one for the cattle enclosure. The hut opposite of the entrance was the home of either the chief's mother or the chief himself. The huts closest to the chiefs were those of his wives, with the great wife closest to his own. Closer to the entrance, the huts of the sons of the village were placed on the left side and the huts of the daughters of the village on the right. In each hut would be an umsamo, a special ritual area, with the most important umsamo located in the chief's hut 8. The huts nearest the entrance were used for guests and visitors. Additionally, there would be multiple watchtowers in the kraal. Ritual uses. The umsamo within the chief's hut was an important site for communicating with ancestor spirits. Similarly, there would be a site on the cattle enclosure's west side for performance of rituals directed at ancestors. These rituals were usually carried out by the headman, an important ceremonial position in traditional Zulu society. Fauna. Elephant at Longonpan. The park hosts over 100 mammal and 400 bird species, including 19 large herbivores and 8 large carnivores. All Zimbabwe's specially protected animals are to be found in Tshwane, and it is the only protected area where gemsbok and brown hyena occur in small numbers. Grazing herbivores are more common in the main Camp Wild area and Linkwasha concession area, with mixed feeders more common in the Robins and Cinematella Wild areas, which are more heavily wooded. Distribution fluctuates seasonally, with large herbivores concentrating in areas where intensive water pumping is maintained during the dry season. The population of the Cape wild dogs to be found in Tshwane is thought to be of one of the larger surviving groups in Africa today, along with that of Kruger National Park and Selous Game Reserve. Elephants have been enormously successful in Tshwane, and the population has increased to far above that naturally supported by such an area. There has been a lot of debate on how to deal with this, with parks authorities implementing culling to reduce populations, especially during 1967 to 1986. The elephant population doubled in the 5 years following the end of culling in 1986. National Parks Scientific Services coordinates 2 major conservation and research projects in the park. Leopard Project, National Leopard Project, which is surveying numbers of leopard to obtain baseline data for later comparative analysis with status of leopard in consumptive, hunting, areas and communal land bordering the national park. This is carried out at Tshwane in conjunction with the Wildlife Conservation and Research Unit of Oxford University and the Detet Animal Rescue Trust, a registered wildlife conservation trust. Zimbabwe landlocked. Zimbabwe is a landlocked, low-income, food-deficit country in southern Africa. In 2020, more than 7.7 million people, half the population, will face food insecurity at the peak of the lean season, as poor rains and erratic weather patterns have a negative impact on crop harvests and livelihood prospects. The factors which have exacerbated Zimbabwe's food security situation to serious, according to the 2017 Global Hunger Index, where it ranked 108th of 119, are manifold. Widespread poverty, HIV/AIDS, limited employment opportunities, liquidity challenges, recurrent climate-induced shocks, and economic instability all contribute to limiting adequate access to food. Low productivity, agricultural practices, and lack of access to markets are also affecting the food security of the vast majority of rural Zimbabweans, whose livelihoods depend on rain-fed agricultural production. Undernutrition rates are high, especially in rural districts where diets lack diversity, maize being the main staple, and are poor in essential nutrients. A zero-hunger strategic review of the food security situation, carried out in 2015, highlighted the root causes of hunger, the gaps in support, and the areas where WFP could add value. Following recommendations from the review, WFP is sharpening its focus on supporting longer-term national social protection and resilience building to achieve zero hunger, while also maintaining its humanitarian assistance. In Zimbabwe, the World Food Programme, WFP, is supporting the government to address the root causes of vulnerability through activities that strengthen safety nets and build resilience, while also providing life-saving humanitarian assistance to the most vulnerable people, including refugees, during severe seasonal shocks. WFP is contributing to the Zimbabwean government's efforts towards achieving Sustainable Development Goal (SDG) 2 on ending hunger and SDG 17 on global partnerships. To this end, WFP is strengthening and forging new partnerships with government, NGOs, academia, donors, private sector, UN agencies, and communities. Innovative programs are needed to end hunger at scale in Zimbabwe. WFP will continue developing and implementing innovations in analysis and mapping, technology and systems, emergency preparedness, supply chain and delivery choices. Examples include SCOPE, a beneficiary management and transfer mechanism, which can potentially serve as a social protection single registry, and the R4 Rural Resilience Initiative, which builds climate adaptation and insurance into safety nets. Under its country's Strategic Plan 2017-2021, WFP will work towards eradicating hunger and ensure better nutrition through 6 strategic outcomes, the activities of which are closely interlinked, amplifying results. As resilience continues to be paramount to strengthening communities' capacity to absorb future climate-induced shocks, WFP will increase its resilience-building activities through supporting smallholder farmers, piloting the R4 Rural Initiative and programs. Zimbabwe travel information. What makes Zimbabwe a unique country to travel to? Country description. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country in southern Africa, bordered by the Zambezi and Limpopo rivers. The official language is English. However, the majority of the population speaks Shona. Zimbabwe has a fragile political environment, and the Zimbabwean economy is underdeveloped due to decades of economic mismanagement and political uncertainty. Although Zimbabwe offers popular tourist attractions in Victoria Falls, Great Zimbabwe, and selected game parks, much of the country's infrastructure is in disrepair and emergency medical care is limited. Crime. Crime is a serious problem in Zimbabwe, driven by the country's depressed economy. U.S. citizens and other foreigners are perceived to be wealthy and are frequently targeted by criminals who operate in the vicinity of hotels, restaurants, and shopping areas of major cities and tourist areas, such as Victoria Falls. Although the majority of crimes in Zimbabwe are nonviolent, perpetrators are generally armed with weapons, which can include firearms. The downtown sectors of Harare and its high-density residential suburbs are particularly high-crime areas, and a number of U.S. citizen visitors have been assaulted or robbed. Travelers should always secure their luggage, particularly in public areas such as airports and bus stops. Purse snatchers will often work in teams of two, with one person acting as a diversion. A typical mugging involves a group of young males who surround and overwhelm their victim in a public area. Avoid displaying or carrying